6 p.m. So we'll call this regular meeting of the McKinleyville Community Services District Board of Directors, Wednesday, February 1st, 2023 to order. April, would you take the roll, please?
Director Bender,
Here.
Director Beitman,
Here.
Director Couch,
Here.
Director Mayo,
Here.
and President Orsini is absent.
Absent. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Director Beitman, could I have you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions or changes to this agenda?
There are not.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Take the roll.
Director Beitman?
Here.
It's for the vote. Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Here.
and Vice President Bender.
Yes. Okay, item A5, closed session discussion. There are no closed sessions scheduled. B, public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled. C, public comment and written communications. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the McKinleyville Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for a report of action at a subsequent committee or board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Letters should be used for complex issues. Do any of the aforementioned parties wish to make a public comment? James?
I'm taking this moment to introduce our new GIS analyst, Sam King, who is sitting in the front row here. And I'll give you a little background about him. He grew up in Half Moon Bay, attended Sierra College near Sacramento for 5 years. You're going to see a pattern here. And he played golf there. Then he transferred to Cal Poly in 2019, graduated in 2020 with a degree in environmental science, which was concentrated in geospatial analysis. Still playing golf. Prior to accepting this job, he worked at the golf course. He says to get the free membership, and was also a delivery driver for Domino's, which kept him fed. During his free time, he likes to play golf. And I hear he's pretty good at it. He likes to go to the gym, as you can see by him hobbling in, it was leg day. And he likes to explore various places in Humboldt County. So he started with us on December 7th. He's here to introduce you to him, or him to you and you to him. And if you see him around, he's one of us.
Welcome to the district. We hope you stay around.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome. Was the golf course a draw for you?
Okay, are there any other public comments from anyone here or on Zoom? Do we have any Zoom people on?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item D, the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon the board of directors at one time without discussion. If any board member, staff member, or interested person requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed so that it may be acted on separately. Does anyone wish to pull the items from the consent calendar? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent calendar as written.
Move to approve the consent calendar. I'll second.
Take the roll.
All right, Director Beitman,
Aye.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Vice President Bender.
Yes. Okay, he continued in new business. Item E1, guess I ought to turn the page. Okay, consider an approval of memorandum of understanding between the Wiat Tribe, Humboldt County, and the McKinleyville Community Services District to establish a cooperative government-to-government relationship and to implement a McKinleyville regenerative and transformative client community grant. Would you please present this item, Manager Kaspari?
Thank you, Director Bender. The Wiat Tribe submitted a Transformative Climate Communities, or a TCC grant application to the California Strategic Growth Council early in 2022. The district and the county worked with the tribe, excuse me, to prepare letters of support for the grant application and reviewed a draft memorandum of understanding at that time. In October, the California Strategic Growth Council informed the tribe that the council approved the TCC planning grant of $299,800 to the Wiat Tribe for the McKinleyville Regenerative and Transformative Community Plan. Previously funded by the California's Cap and Trade Program, round 4 of the TCC is funded by a fiscal year 2021-2022 budget appropriation from the general fund. The award letter stated, this program funding empowers the communities most impacted by pollution to choose their own goals, strategies, and projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and local air pollution. The scope of work of the planning grant states the project will engage in pre-planning for affordable housing development in West McKinleyville and the unincorporated areas north and west of Arcata as outlined in the project map, which is included in the board packet as attachment 1. The activity under this agreement involves planning for affordable housing, renewable energy, ecologically regenerative workforce training, and climate smart transportation. This includes, but is not limited to, property evaluations and selection, including environmental, historical, and cultural evolution, as well as title issues, pre-development planning, including engineering, architectural, traffic analysis, landscape architecture, and restoration planning, community interaction and participation activities, including outreach meetings, translations, newsletters, and updates online and or in print, and tribal citizen participation opportunities, creating a collaborative governance structure, and creating a master plan for the development of several connected projects to be implemented over the following 5 years after the planning grant has been concluded, and work to get them shovel-ready by the end of the planning process. The district's commitments, obligations, and responsibilities are outlined in paragraph 4 of the MOU, which is included as attachment 1. They generally consist of assisting the tribe in identifying potential properties and providing staff assistance and representation in the planning process and at project meetings. MCSC staff, likely to mainly be Parks and Rec Director Frisbee, will be reimbursed by the grant at their fully loaded pay rate for their time working on the TCC grant. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided and authorize the board president to execute the MOU between the Wiat Tribe, Humboldt County, and MCSD to cooperatively implement a TCC grant to create a planning process for affordable housing that lowers greenhouse gas emissions and creates neighborhoods that reduce automobile usage.
Okay, thank you. To the board?
Subject to board comments and public comments, I move that we accept the staff recommendation to approve the MOU.
We still have no public online.
No.
Does anyone in the gallery wish to make a comment? Yes? Please step to the microphone. That way, the people online who are none.
Well, in our taping.
Right, and we're also taping this, so. Can you please state your name and where you live?
Are we on?
Yes.
All right, now we're good now. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Elaine.
My name is Elaine Weinreb, and I want to start by saying affordable housing is badly needed in this area. And if the Wiat can pull it off, that is a very good thing, and my hat is off to them. Having said that, I do have a couple of questions. And one of them is if the WIAT do build houses in this area, will that housing go into trust? Or will it stay under the supervision of the county and the state of California? And the reason I ask is that issue did come up in Trinidad, where we did end up losing a good part of our tax base because a local tribe did put some land that they purchased into trust. And maybe that's completely irrelevant to the issue here, but I just thought it was worth raising as a question. I did have another question that I wanted to ask, but I can't remember what it is. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. This really isn't the time to ask questions, but if you would contact staff, then they would be more than happy to answer those questions to the best of their ability.
There's a clause, and I don't remember exactly where it is in there, that speaks to that generality of title, sorting out title issues. So that will be part of the planning and discussion, I am sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the tribe has not talked about putting any of these lands or parcels or properties, whatever they come up with, into trust. But we'll absolutely be involved in that discussion.
Right.
And
That-
Director, yeah,
I apologize for interrupting you, Pat, but that could end up ultimately being what happens. It's a discussion, it's a negotiation and a discussion. And as I understand our MOU at this point.
correct.
And I just wanted to be sure, I'm assuming that the type of projects we're talking are affordable housing projects somewhere down the line. So,
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, the purpose of the grant is to really kind of like the town center development, where it is more bicycle and pedestrian friendly developments, and affordable housing is going to be a key component of that. Really, the intent of the planning grant is to line the tribe up to be able to get an implementation grant, and there are, I think it's up to $30 million they can qualify for in implementation funds.
And David, as usual, our obligations, physically, financially, environmentally as a district, we have to be able to service it correctly and so that's all part of it as well. Anyway, I thank Elaine for her question.
Okay, do you wish to continue your motion?
I made a motion.
You made a
I'm looking
motion.
for a
Do you
second.
have a second?
did I do a second? I'll do a second.
Yeah.
We need one or do.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. April, could you take the roll, please?
All right, Director Beitman, Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Vice President Binder.
Yes. Okay. Item E2, establish section 115 trust for other post-employment benefits, or OPEB. And this was to be presented by Director Alvarado. However, she's not here. Who will be presenting this item?
It will be me. I'm moving over here, so. So yes, unfortunately, Finance Director Alvarado is feeling ill, and so I will be covering this. So the district currently offers a health insurance plan. Are you moving that? Thank you. For retirees, it did not move here. I need to move it.
I'm just gonna move it up.
Sorry.
That works.
Okay, so if one of the employees who's been with the district at least 5 years and retires from the district will continue to cover their health insurance. This type of plan is typically called other post-employment benefits, or OPEB. So each year, the district's actuary, GovInvest, has to go through and do a calculation on how much these benefits will cost over a 30-year horizon. And then this is referred to as the district's OPEB liability. The district had previously established and currently has an OPEB reserve, which currently has a balance of $2.9 million, which is held in CalTrust and Humboldt County accounts, where it earns very minimal interest. How come it's not advancing?
Because you moved, yeah, there you go.
Okay. Finance Director Alvarado set up this way of thinking about what the liability is. She's comparing it to a credit card that holds a balance. Based on the district's fiscal year 2022 GASB report, the credit card balance for the district's OPEB liability is currently $6.9 million. That doesn't mean that the district currently owes $6.9 million. It's just a liability that they have calculated that the district will eventually owe over the time period.
Paid incrementally?
Correct. So currently our liability is $160,000. So that's what we owe this year on that liability. So the way they calculate the liability is, okay, well, there's the current retirees that we owe that, $160,000 for. James is going to retire soon. So when he retires from the district, we'll have to pay his health insurance. And so that's calculated in there. Health insurance costs go up every year. So they take into account all those costs that are building up. And currently those add up to a debt or a liability of $6.9 million. Director Mayo, you have another question?
Well, later,
Okay.
I'm seeing some astronomical effects here.
Right. So, it is, and that's why the district this board has addressed this potential liability previously. And that's why you have established those current $2.9 million that are set in an OPEB liability fund. So we can make sure we have the funds to pay this liability down. The district did set up that we are going to go pay-go. So every year, however much we owe, currently about $160,000 this year, that's what we pay towards that liability. Another way to deal with that is to pre-fund the liability, which is to establish the Section 115 trust, put at least, the pay-go amount in it, or possibly additional funds into that to pre-fund that liability. I'm going to jump ahead. So this is the graph that came.
And that's a pre-funded assumption.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So this is the graph that was generated in the GovInvest actuary report for this year. And that's, so you see in 2022, we have $6.9 million. That's our OPEB liability. And they project it out for 30 years. So you can see that at the end, it gets up to about $20 million as our liability out in 2040. That doesn't mean we owe $20 million in 2040, but that will be our liability that has built up. And you can see every year it goes up. And again, that's because people will retire, we'll hire other people that will be in line to retire. And eventually we'll have to pay if they retire from the district, we'll have to pay their health insurance. And like I mentioned, health insurance goes up, as you all very well know, inflation can affect this, et cetera. So this is their calculated liability. So what is a Section 115 trust? And it is an account that receives preferential treatment by the state and the feds because these funds are going to be used specifically for paying down this OPEB liability. They will currently, government regulations don't allow us to invest the stuff that we currently, the 2.9 we currently have in CalTrust in the county in any sort of risky accounts. It gets very minimal interest, similar to like a savings account that you have at your bank, and that's because of the regulations. However, if we set up a Section 115 trust, regulations allow you then to invest in more risky stocks, et cetera. So we should get a much better return.
What's our exposure or liability if those investments fail?
So for the CalPERS Section 115 trust, shoot, left my book. They have three different, talking out here. They have three different investment strategies, none of which are terribly risky, but all of them have greater risk and hence greater potential of return. If so the current Section 115 trust, the strategy one is less conservative. The expected return is a 6% rate at a risk of 12.1%. The strategy two is conservative. The expected return is 5.5% with a risk of 9.9%. And strategy three is the most conservative, expected return of 5% with a risk of 8.4%. And that is the strategy that the Finance Committee has recommended. So
one thing that I noted in here is it says the CERBT has averaged a 4.57% yield over the past 10 years, and that includes recent market activity. So that eased my mind a lot.
right.
Because recent market activity has been less than stellar.
Yep, it was doing much better than that prior to the last year, like everybody's investments were.
Okay.
So this graph shows that the blue line is if we take the recommended $2.5 million and invest it in this fund, that's how that investment will grow over the course of this. So you can see as we get out to the end.
Why are we covering somebody for their entire life? They only worked 5 years.
Sorry. Instead of the $20 million liability, we're at $17 million out in 2040. And those blue fundings can help to pay down our liability. So again, this is the blue lines are just the $2.5 million.
Okay.
Oops. So as mentioned, CalPERS has set up the Section 115 trust program, and that is what we're intending to utilize. To establish a Section 115 trust, the board of directors must authorize the following: agreement and election to pre-fund other post-employment benefits, delegation of authority to request disbursement, and certification of program funding policy.
Dave, have we talked about this all with our negotiating stuff? I think so. Okay. I wish our union or our employee negotiator was here for this discussion. But anyway, never mind. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's-
Negotiation.
That's a, yeah, total separate
Ask
thing.
Eric next time you see him.
I can't do that.
Okay,
That's not legal.
Okay.
so this slide kind of lays out the benefits I was talking about for the Section 115 trust. We get a broader array of investment options. It reduces unfunded liabilities and future pay goes amounts. So using the earnings from the investments can be used to pay off our annual contribution and reduce the balance. It improved financial reporting. So when the actuary currently looks at our current investment, the most credit they can give us for that is a treasury bond buyer's rate. But if we switch to a Section 115, then the actuary could use CBIT's discount rate, which is much higher. And it's a low cost way to maximize the idle funds. Like I mentioned, we're not getting anything out of those investments. So the Audit and Finance Committee recommended a funding target of 60% of the actuarially determined liability. We don't want to fund this, and we all agreed we don't want to fund this to 100%. Because, you know, if we have a great year and those blue lines, we shoot for funding it out to 100%, and we get a lot of return on our investment, those blue lines can go above what our actual liability is. Again, if we put money in the Section 115 trust, we can't take it out. So if we fund it to 100% and we have a great year and earn a bunch of extra money, that's all going to sit in there. We don't have access to that. Okay, I jumped too far ahead. Maybe I didn't. So the Finance Committee did agree on a funding target of 60%, initial transfer of 2.5 million out of our existing OPEB reserves, and annual funding equal to the PAYGO amount, with additional contributions determined annually during the budget process. During one of the initial meetings, we had talked about funding it to the PAYGO amount, like I mentioned, is about 160,000 this year. And then adding another $200,000 in this year to start, to pay down or invest more. We decided that, well, we didn't budget for that this year, of course, because that was last year and we hadn't set up a Section 115 trust. So this year, we're going to start looking at additional funding. And every year, that's going to be part of the budget process. And like I mentioned, we're going to utilize the CBIT investment strategy 3, which is the more conservative investment strategy. So what are the cons? Again, I think I've mentioned all of these, no, today's return isn't a guarantee return for tomorrow as well, like any investment strategy. Funds in the trust are, like I mentioned, irrevocably restricted. Currently the district has established that $2.9 million OPEB fund. You have restricted use of that to OPEB liability. However, that's just a decision the board made in the past. If we had a large earthquake and we really wanted to access that $2.9 million, you as a board could vote to access that. You can't do that for the Section 115 trust. We don't have access to that except for OPEB liability. Okay. So all these recommendations are laid out in the staff note. So staff recommends the board establish a Section 115 trust with CalPERS, California Employers Retirement Benefit Trust Program. Set a funding target of 60%. Approve initial transfer of 2.5 million. Authorize staff to fund the trust annually in the amount of PAYGO with additional contributions determined by the budget process. And authorize the finance director and general manager to invest in the trust utilizing strategy 3, which is the most conservative, and authorize the finance director and general manager to execute the necessary agreements, certifications, and other related documents to establish the trust. So that's it.
Okay, are there any board discussion on this?
Well, I think I understand where you're at with it, yeah.
Can't hear you.
Okay, I'd like to particularly hear from Director Couch, who sat on the Audit Finance Committee when it was discussed in December. And Director Beitman, who's sat in on it here in January.
With your permission. I believe this is a very well constructed plan. Let's start with that. Setting the 60% of the actuarially determined obligation is a difficult thing to do because that is a moving target. It varies from year to year based upon some assumptions with regard to the internal rate of return. And that total obligation varies from somewhere around $5 million to somewhere around $13 million. That doesn't mean that the target should be disregarded, but it simply means that the process by which we reach the target is a challenging one and would be difficult to sit down and pin it down. What this proposal does is it takes a significant amount of money and moves it into the trust, making it irrevocably. It's an irrevocable move. It cannot be drawn back. And therein lies a piece of risk. And should there be a catastrophe of some sort, we would lose access to those funds. But the other side of it is it gives us more flexibility in terms of investment. And to answer Director Mayo's question, it does not mean that we're totally free. In fact, we're still constrained to some very conservative options. And of the three options that we have, this proposal suggests that we take the most conservative of the three. It's a large pool. We're not investing in individual securities or anything like that. What it does do is it opens us up to an increase in return that changes the assumptions under the actuarial computation to reduce the obligation at the same time that it increases the potential return on the invested money. So it's the gain is that shall we say, a lower target and a higher rate of return to reach it. The challenge is that money becomes irrevocably placed into the trust. Now, there are other nuances to this proposal, but that's basically the core of it. And I believe that the thing has been well thought out by staff. We sat and we plowed through a lot of numbers and so on to really look at all of this. And I left it convinced that understanding this balance, that the proposal was very sound. And that's basically all that I can say as a committee member sitting through this process.
Cool.
Okay, that was great. You know, the one thing, and I'm glad that you brought that up, is that it does turn now $2.5 million into restricted funds. Currently, we have in our catastrophe reserves 1.343 million. In the event of a catastrophe, what percentage would that cover, just based upon a generic catastrophe, or is that even a fair question to ask?
It is pretty hard to guess that.
Right.
We established kind of a bridging fund. Like in Rio Dell, the state defense came in and started giving money. So what that $1.3 million is intended to do is get us through the initial period before the feds and the state show up, because if we have a disaster of that magnitude where we're getting through $101.3 million, it's going to be a big disaster. So they are going to come in and that,
I knew that there'd be other funding coming in.
yeah.
But I wanted to ask you specifically because you would probably be the best one to know.
Yeah, and I think that we established that to do the bridge, and I think it's sufficient to bridge to additional.
Okay, so you're comfortable with it personally.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more comments from the board? Comments from staff? Comments from the public? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve staff recommendation. And thank you all. Stuff's.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Director Whitman. April, will you please take the roll?
Director Bateman,
Aye.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Vice President Bender.
Yes. Okay, item E3. Review information for the draft capital improvement plan for the Parks and General Fund fiscal year 2023-24. Who's presenting this? Go ahead, Director Frisbee.
The detailed draft of the fiscal year 2023-24 capital improvement plan for the Parks and General Fund is attached as attachment 1, covering the next 10 fiscal years. Budgeted expenditures, which are not grant funded, are anticipated to be covered by assessments and user fees. This allows the district to take a structured approach to future user fees as these projects are undertaken. Funding for certain projects depends on grants awarded. Smaller projects that do not meet the definition of capital assets will be treated as regular expenditures and are anticipated to be paid from operating funds. The attached narrative in attachment 2 provides further detail. The final summarized capital improvement plan will be brought back to the board for review and approval with the complete fiscal year 2023-24 budget in June 2023. Staff recommends the board review and discuss the draft capital improvement plan and take public comment.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion from the board? Anyone from the staff?
Okay.
Is there any comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, wait a second. I don't have to entertain a motion for this.
just
I
information.
guess it's just an informational item. Okay, we'll move on to E4. Okay, Central Avenue Water and Sewer Mainline Rehabilitation Project, award of construction contract to GR Sunberg Incorporated. Manager Kaspari.
Thank you, Director Bender. The district has been working on master planning efforts focusing on the replacement and rehabilitation of the water and sewer main lines since 2017. The effort included an analysis of all water and sewer main lines throughout the system. The original water distribution system was constructed in 73, and the original sewer collection system was constructed in 1976. As the system continues to age, replacement and rehabilitation of existing infrastructure will be necessary to maintain an effective functional system. The ultimate goal of the master planning effort was to come up with a cost and prioritized schedule for replacement or rehabilitation of the main lines over the course of 50 to 75 years. The master planning effort was successful in this regard, and the district is moving into the first phase of many construction projects that will help to ensure the district is able to continue their high level of service to the community well into the future. The first project that was identified as part of the master planning effort was the rehabilitation of the 8-inch AC sewer main in Central Avenue from Sutter to Hiller. This section has degraded to the point where the district staff have observed exposed gaskets, which can lead to leaks and pipe collapse. Some samples of the sewer pipe from similar areas of the collection system that were tested at material laboratories exhibited significant loss of wall thickness and strength, indicating degradation of pipe integrity. I apologize. Hence, this section of the sewer system was identified for replacement rehabilitation to strive to reduce the potential for infiltration and inflow, as well as catastrophic failure of the pipe. Due to the age of the existing 6-inch AC water main in this area and the known degradation characteristics of the AC pipe, it is prudent to rehabilitate the water main at the same time as the sewer main, thereby minimizing overall disruption to Central Avenue traffic and minimizing costs of rehabilitation for each system through this section. GHD Incorporated prepared the design and bid package for the rehabilitation of the water and sewer mains along Central Avenue from Sutter to Hiller. The proposed rehabilitation method for the sewer is to line it with cured in place or CIPP lining, an epoxy impregnated fiberglass type fabric that is used to line the existing pipe. The proposed replacement method for the water main is a new parallel water main installed in the center turn lane via open cut trenching. Project went out to bid in December 2022. Bids were due back on January 18th, 2023. 3 bids were received. One from GR Sundberg Inc. or GRS, one from Mercer Fraser, and one from Wallen Construction. Attachment 1 is a detailed bid tabulation, but the bids were close. GRS came in at $2,532,275. Mercer Fraser came in at $2,677,990. And Wallen came in at $3,009,769. The engineer's estimate for the project was approximately $2.9 million. GHD has reviewed the responsiveness and responsibility of the bid and has recommended the award to GRS. Board is reminded that the construction of the water and sewer rehabilitation project were included in the 2018 and 2022 rate studies. And $1 million per year for each is currently being set aside to fund these projects. Board has also authorized the sale of certificates of participation to help fund the construction of the Central Avenue rehabilitation project and included $2 million in funding for the water main and $2 million in funding for the sewer main. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and authorize the general manager to execute a contract and associated documents with GR Sundberg Inc. in the amount of $2,532,275 with a 10% contingency of $253,228.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any board discussion? No board discussion.
Well, I was gonna say,
Oh,
we've collected money for it already.
Yeah.
Authorize it.
yeah, right. Okay. Is there any more comments from staff or from the public on this item? On Zoom? Manuel? Okay. I'll call for a motion.
I would move that we adopt the staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. April, will you please take the roll?
Director Bateman,
Aye.
Director Couch,
Aye.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Vice President Binder.
Yes.
I do want to add one last comment. Since this is likely going to have, well, not even likely, it is going to have impacts to Central Avenue. We're really going to work with the contractor to get a detailed schedule, get that out, put it on our website, get it out in Facebook, and make sure that people are aware of this project.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think they'll still complain.
Oh, I think that's.
Oh, everybody. Oh, yeah. There's always going to be somebody not happy about progress.
Well, especially tearing up Central Ave.
Well, then all it is going to impact the turn lane, isn't it? And the water pipe is going to go down on one side.
All right, so the sewer main, which runs on the east side, basically right down the green bike lane on, again, central between Sutter and Hiller. Yeah, that will have minimal impacts. The contractor likely will still restrict it down to one lane when they're actively working on that. And then they are going to move to the water main will go down the central turn lane. So that is likely going to be closed with access points to turn into businesses and stuff. So we're not closing the road at all completely, but it definitely is going to be down to one lane at times.
Well, why not just utilize it while we can, get a bunch of bull pines and plant in there over the top of it? Christ, they want to shut Central down to one lane anyway.
Staff has no comment.
Just bite the bullet, get it done.
Okay, moving right along to committee reports. Parks and Rec Committee, Mr. Bender and Mr. Beitman, and I have nothing to add to Director Frisbee's report. B, Area Fund. I haven't heard a thing from Mr. Colstead. Was he even notified that I was?
He has been notified, yes.
Okay. All right, C, REDEC, Director Beitman.
I assume there was a meeting, but I did not receive a notice or invitation to it. I've spoken with April about that. I think that will be corrected for the next meeting.
Surely should have got a hold of you already.
Well, we'll get a hold of her again, make her.
I've already emailed her as well.
Yeah.
Okay, did you happen to attend?
No, and that's another thing, I've asked and asked and asked, and for some reason, I think they kind of do this. I want to be also included on, on stuff. I'm been it for a long time. I'm interested in that information that flows back and forth. I'd like to keep up on. So.
Yeah, it's a public meeting.
Well, I know, but I
It's a
mean,
public-private meeting.
well, what I mean is the notices that the members get have some data with it that's helpful, and stuff that.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
I remember going through that with the McMac before I joined this body. Okay, Kellyville Senior Center Board, that would be me. I'm busy building a website. That's about it. Business as usual. We're not too happy about this Hewitt room being closed down for 2 weeks, but in the name of progress, we know it's going to be a lot better once it's done. And so I didn't hear any curse words from our volunteers or instructors, so that's a good sign. Okay,
For the floor,
the walls,
the wall.
the walls in 2 weeks, it'll be closed for 2 weeks for the walls.
Yeah, I think starting on February 13th, the walls are getting textured and painted. The flooring is coming in April.
And I asked for a can of spackle to cover up the nail holes in my office, so hopefully I'll get that out of it. Okay. Audit and Finance Committee, Mr. Beitman.
We have the report, and we have a discussion on it. And I really have nothing else nothing material to add to it.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it with your comments regarding the section 115, which was very well worded, I might add. Okay, Employee Negotiations Committee, Director Couch.
We didn't meet.
You did not meet. Okay, McMac. And that would be Director Orsini, and he's absent. And as alternate, I did not attend that evening, so we have no committee report there. Ad hoc committee for the community forest, Director Mayo.
We didn't have a meeting, so we're still in negotiations. Things are moving along swimmingly, and looking forward to bringing more information to everybody when it's available.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Okay, does either the board or the staff have any legislative or regulatory reports to announce? Staff does not. Doesn't look like the board does today. You don't have anything, Dennis?
No, I mean, we're getting, well, I was telling Pat, I was on the phone today with our new Speaker of the House's Chief of Staff, going over California centric water issues, the lower basin issues with the Colorado River and our Aqua members there. Doesn't exactly affect us, but so goes California, so goes us all.
And so goes Southern California, so goes. it all.
Yeah, so anyway, working on that, and then spent some time, quite a bit of time with Senator Tim Scott's Chief of Staff and special district staff on the the concept of getting that 5% codified of state revolving funds specifically for special districts. So we're working on that, and it's just, it's like the old time, you had the little tickets you bought and you could have a ticket and dance with somebody, but then every time you turn around, somebody was stepping in behind, giving another ticket. It's kind of like that all the time. You never know. There's a dance, but you don't know who you'll end up dancing with. How's that for an analogy?
I guess. Okay, thank you, Director Mayo. We have 3 staff reports, Finance and Administration Department.
They're quiet.
They're quiet. Nobody's talking for them. Okay. Ops Department, Mr. Henry.
I think you all know what I'm gonna say. Just
Oh.
kidding. I actually have something. Pat was looking at me like, you better say. I do want to report, last month, we had a claim to the district of sewer plug. I'll report that same incident did happen again. However, this time we approached it with a camera. And we took our backhoe out there and we ran the camera first down the main to the customer's lateral and showed the really long wad of toilet paper. Just as we suspected was the problem last time, the camera actually proved that was the problem, is the wad of toilet paper pushing out the customer's lateral and hitting the edge of our main, the backside wall of our main. It couldn't make the turn because it was so compacted. We then ran the camera from the backside of it to show the length of this thing and the monstrosity of this. We did ask the homeowner to come outside and look at the camera and show them that, here it is. It's on your side. You see that this is what's going on. Has anything changed in the house? And basically, I think it's just a lot of child flushing a lot of toilet paper. This is a problem that we are facing a lot of. We do get a lot of plumbers will go out to calls from customers. They'll run a snake down the lateral. Say it's 100 feet from the house to the main, they'll hit the plug at 50 feet and they'll just keep pushing it until they release it into our main. And then they'll pull their snake back and bill the customer and away they go, except we inherit that problem. So it's very common that this happens. So for last month, when that claim came through, a plumber had been there. And you can see you compact toilet paper, you push into the main, that's what happens. So this is something that we are seeing a lot of. Plumbers are not retracting the plug. They're actually pushing it to give it to us. Is there anything else you want me to cover on that, Pat?
No, well done.
And I'm doing a really good job.
How often in general, I realize it, but how common is it?
90% of the calls that we get,
Or that?
I would even go higher, to be honest. I would say 95% of the calls that we get about sewer backing up our sewer plug is because there's a plug in this customer sewer And you'll get a call that says, hey, the plumber was here. He says it's in your main. The problem's in your main. Like, well, the problem wasn't in our main because when he says he hit the plug at 20 feet and we're 40 feet from the house,
Right.
then we know that you pushed it to us. But this is a very,
It's pretty hard for him not to do that, isn't it?
you could, if you could get in there, with the corkscrew type snake that they used to use, and actually thread it in,
Right.
you could actually pull back. Yes,
Yeah.
you could get something back. If not, you can at least shred it, by doing that and break it down
Well,
so
I've
it'll
run
actually
those,
flow.
Quite a bit in the past, and you go 4 or 5 feet, you come back 3 feet, you go 10 feet, you
Yeah.
come back 5.
And break
that
it
was
up.
Just the process.
Yeah. And most plumbers have cameras today. They can run the camera down and see what's going on, and they can actually run the snake and they can watch it and see that they
Do
should be
we have,
shredding it up.
do we have a contractor that's good at it with us? That does a good job and,
Probably not gonna answer that
Okay.
question.
well,
Okay.
yeah, you can, I just-
So I don't mention the name, then they hate me. Yeah.
Yeah. Look in the yellow pages, A to Z. There you go.
Hey, James, are you able to quantify the number of times? Would that be a per month, per year? And if so, how often?
I would say that it's probably, we don't get a lot of sewer calls. As far as being back up, maybe 6 times a year. And I would say if it's not 6, it's 5 times that it's the plumber pushing something to us.
Super Bowl parties.
Okay.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, everything else. So, yeah. We do put it in our newsletter, what not to flush down the drain. We do, the public, if they read the newsletter, they get to see it. We posted it on, I think, our Facebook page. And so, yeah, we kind of, along with the grease and everything else, they don't put down the drain. But when you do have children who are growing up and they're able to go to the bathroom on their own, they're going to flush a whole roll of toilet paper down that toilet.
George Foreman's got an insurance policy they could buy.
Yeah, because of the grill.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me like it was handled with due diligence and the problem went away, unlike, well, I guess toilet paper went away now too. So, okay, thank you. You have anything else?
So point out is there are cases like the last one I rolled out on last week. 2 weeks. We did have 2 in this last month. I rolled out on one. Customers lived there for 20 years. Nothing has changed. I said, nothing has changed. Like all of a sudden you're having these plug ups and that he switched out his toilets to low flow toilets. So it's him and his wife living by themselves in a house. There's not enough water pushing the toilet paper down. They got low flow toilets. I just recommended to him like, hey, once a week when you take your shower, one of your showers, plug up the drain in the bottom, let it fill up during your shower. So you're not wasting extra water. Pull the drain when you're done and let that blow the toilet paper down. So far that seems to be working, but you start getting the low flow things and long laterals and not a lot of usage, these problems are gonna come up, and it's just would be nice if plumbers were aware
I
of that.
never thought of that.
Yep.
Wow.
I'd add, McKinleyville's lucky because we have modern pipes in Arcata. We have a lot of parts of town where the pipes are clay pipes this long with a joint every so often.
Oh, Jesus.
The joints were waxed 70 years ago. So basically we have pipes with no joints with weeds growing into them. So we're blessed out here. Let's put it that way.
Even up in Grace Park. Okay. No, I think pipes are pretty old up there. Okay, Parks and Recreation Department, Director Frisbee.
I have nothing further to add.
Nothing further to add. Okay, and General Manager Kaspari.
I have nothing further to add.
Okay. F4, President's Report. Well, I guess that's me. Thank you for your patience. This is my first time with the gavel and I even forgot to bang it to open the meeting and I was looking forward to doing that.
But you're doing a great job.
Okay, thanks. Okay, board members' comments, announcements, reports, and agenda item requests. Director Byman.
If it's not too late, looking over the audit and finance committee meeting notes. Just want to call out one item on that that I did not mention, it was not mentioned earlier, and I think it's an important item for the board. And that is that the initial contribution to the trust, section 115, I guess it's 115 trust, calls this, the plan calls for additional funds to be contributed and to be determined through the budget process annually. So the anticipation is this item is going to return to the board annually to be reviewed.
Okay, that was my understanding as well.
Okay.
Okay, great. Anything else from anyone else? Well, I guess we're adjourned then. That doesn't take a motion, does it? It's one thing I forgot.
Bang the gavel.
Bang the gavel.
Might have been a record meeting too.